Greetings, I'm Ryan from iThemeland, specializing in WordPress and WooCommerce. This tutorial is about rolling back to the previous data in WordPress Bulk Post Editing plugin. Rolling back to the previous data could be done in WordPress Bulk Post Editing plugin for the last changes you have made by using undo and redo buttons, and for the changes performed before by using options provided in the History tab. Rolling back to the previous data using undo and redo buttons. The undo and redo buttons are available at the main page of our plugin to help you to roll back the last changes made on the posts quickly. For example, imagine we bind edit the title of the first and second posts in the table, and somehow we made a mistake and now we need to roll back to the previous data. So we can do that using the undo button. As you can see right here. On the contrary, if you need to see the last changes again, it is simply possible by clicking on the redo button, as we did for the title of the first and second posts in the table. Now let's see how we can roll back to the previous data in the History tab. In the History tab, you can see two different parts. The first part is Search and Specific History of Changes. In this part, we make it easier for you to find any specific changes you have made before on your post fields and roll back the related data in a few seconds. In order to search and find the history of changes, you can filter the list of changes displayed in the second part according to the following fields. Operation. In the Operation combo box, you can choose if your changes were made by bulk operation or inline operation. Author. A list of all authors that have made some changes in the post fields are provided in this combo box, so you can filter those changes that were applied to the posts by a specific author. Fields. This is an amazing part of our plugin because it can allow you to see the history of all changes made in a specific field such as ID, title, and etc. Date. In this part, it is possible to filter the changes made on the post fields on a specific date and roll back to the previous data of that specific date. Apply Filter button. What this button does is when you set your conditions to filter the history of changes, the filtered list will be displayed in the second part by clicking on this button. Reset Filter button. If you need to set the conditions again and remove the previous ones, all fields in the first will be clear by clicking on this button. Clear History button. By clicking on the Clear History button, all the data will be removed and they are not available to roll back to that previous data. Part 2. Columns. In the columns part, a list of changes applied to the post fields are displayed and you can roll back to any previous data you need by clicking on Revert button. If you filter some changes by setting related conditions on the first part, a list of filtered changes will be displayed here and you can choose to roll back to those previous data by clicking on the Revert button in front of each column. Our first example would be rolling back to the previous data, and for operation we're going to go for bulk operation, and our date would be, let's see, April 1, 2024 to April 20, 2024. Now by clicking on Apply Filters, the previous changes displayed in the columns part, as you can see. Alright, so when we click on a reverse button of the first row, a pop-up appeared and asked us to confirm rolling back to the previous data. Now, after confirming, those changes are applied. Example number 2 is deleting filtered changes. As shown here, to delete one or more history of changes, you can easily click on the delete button in the columns part. For example, we deleted the second and third rows in the columns part by clicking on delete button. And let's go ahead and confirm the deleting of history. Example number 3 is removing all history of filtered changes. To remove all history of changes you have filtered in the first part, we provided a cleared history button in our plugin. So as you can see, by clicking on clear history, the whole history of filtered changes will be removed from the list in the columns part, and they will be no longer available to be reverted.